So I'm standing there in my parents' driveway on Christmas morning, engine still running, and my dad, who hasn't hugged me in probably 7 years, is suddenly touching my car like it's made of gold. Not me, the car. And I'm just watching him circle around this matte graphite Mercedes AMG that cost more than their house, more than my brother's medical degree, more than anything anyone in our family has ever owned. And all I can think is, this is what it took for you to look at me? Sorry, I should back up. Hi, I'm Tavia. I'm 31 now, and this is the story of how I showed my entire family that I wasn't the failure they spent a decade telling me I was, and how it felt absolutely nothing like I thought it would. Before I go deeper into this, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and let me know where you're watching from in the comments. Because honestly, I need to know I'm not alone in having a family that, how do I put this nicely, measured my worth in zeros on a paycheck and checked boxes on a life plan I never agreed to. Okay, so let's rewind to last Christmas, December 2022. I was turning 30 in January, living in a studio apartment with a roommate. Yes, a studio with a roommate. Do the math on that nightmare working 3 different jobs that none of my family understood. I was designing logos for small businesses, selling these little clay earrings I made on this website no one in my family had heard of, and doing social media for this local coffee shop. And yes, I was struggling, not because I was lazy or stupid like my family seemed to think, but because I refused to give up on building something that was mine, something I created, something that wasn't the soul-crushing corporate job my sister Viv had, or the doctor path my brother Elliot took, or the accounting career my youngest sister Becca fell into. My parents are these hyper-traditional immigrant-adjacent people. Their parents came over, they were first generation born here, and there's this narrative they've built. That success looks exactly one way, that it's degrees and licenses and benefits packages, that it's marriage by 26 and kids by 29 and a mortgage before 30. And there I was, turning 30 with none of those things. So Christmas 2022, I didn't even want to go home, but my mom guilted me into it. Grandma's getting older, Tavia. You need to see her while you can. Classic manipulation. I took a bus 3 hours upstate, carrying gifts I had made myself because I was too broke to buy anything fancy. I'd spent weeks on these personalized sketchbooks for everyone hand-bound, with covers I'd designed specifically for each person. I still remember my brother Elliot watching me pull them out of my bag, this look on his face like I'd brought roadkill to dinner. "Oh," he said, "you made gifts. Again." And my mom just sighed this little sigh, the one that says, "Why can't you just be normal like everyone else, without having to use words?" But the real moment, the one that broke me, we're all sitting around after dinner, and my cousin Tara, who, by the way, has the personality of unseasoned chicken, announces she's pregnant with her second kid. And there's this whole celebration, my mom crying, my dad making a toast, my aunts practically canonizing her on the spot. Then my Uncle Desmond turns to me and says, not quietly, not privately, but right across the table, "So, Tavia, 30 next month. No husband, no kids, no real job. What's the plan here? Because it seems like everyone else figured it out but you." The whole table went quiet, the kind of quiet where you can hear the refrigerator humming from another room. I remember looking down at my hands and seeing this tiny spot of blue ink on my thumb, from where I'd been working on their gifts the night before. This little smudge of color that represented hours and hours of creating something with my own 2 hands. My mom cleared her throat and said, "Well, not everyone takes the traditional path, Des." And I thought, for just a second, that she was defending me. Then she added, "But yes, we're all a little concerned about Tavia's situation." My dad nodded, not even looking at me. There's still time to go back to school. Get a real degree. My buddy's firm is always looking for people, even at the entry level. Entry level, at 30. Like the past decade of my life had been a weird gap year experiment. My sister Viv, who, for context, works at this massive consulting firm and makes it her personal mission to remind everyone about her bonus every year, she just patted my hand and said, "It's okay to admit when something's not working out, Tavia. Nobody will think less of you for starting over." Starting over. As if everything I'd built was just Nothing. I looked around that table at my family's faces, all wearing these identical expressions of pity mixed with disapproval, and I realized they'd never seen me. Not once. They'd only ever seen the absence of what they wanted me to be. I didn't cry at the table. I smiled and changed the subject and helped clear the dishes. I went through the motions of Christmas Eve like I wasn't dying inside. But that night, in my childhood bedroom surrounded by debate trophies that my parents kept even though I'd begged them to donate them years ago, I sobbed into a pillow so no one would hear me. And I made a promise to myself that next Christmas would be different, that I would make them see me, even if it killed me. I'd like to say I had some grand master plan from the beginning, that I plotted this elaborate revenge scheme. But honestly, I just went home the day after Christmas and threw myself into work with a kind of desperation I'd never felt before. Those earrings I was making? I redesigned the whole collection. Started using this special technique with the clay that created these iridescent finishes no one else was doing. Posted them on my socials. They started selling really selling. Not just to friends feeling sorry for me, but to strangers. Then to influencers. Then to this one particular influencer with 3 million followers who mentioned them in a small creators to watch video. Suddenly I had a wait list. I had to hire 2 assistants. I had to rent actual studio space. The logo design business started growing too. Those small businesses told other small businesses, and soon I was turning down work because I couldn't handle the volume. I hired another designer, then another. By March, I'd moved out of that shared studio into my own 1-bedroom. By June, I was looking at commercial space for what was becoming an actual company. By September, a major department store was stocking my earrings in their emerging designers section. I didn't tell my family any of this, not because I was planning some big reveal, but because they'd stopped asking. The family group chat continued without me really participating. The occasional, "How are you doing, Tavia?" texts from my mom were answered with generic, "Fine, busy with work" responses. They assumed busy with work meant the same struggle they'd always pitied me for. They didn't ask for details because they didn't want to embarrass me, or themselves. Then November came, and with it, the annual Christmas planning email from my mom, who was bringing what dish, which day everyone would arrive, the usual logistics. And at the bottom, a personal note just for me. "Tavia, honey, we've set aside some money to help with your bus ticket this year. No need to thank us. We know things have been tight." I stared at those words for a long time. The assumption, the pity, the complete lack of curiosity about how my life might have changed. That's when it crystallized. Not as revenge exactly, more like a demonstration, a visual aid for people who'd never bothered to see beyond their own narrow definition of success. I didn't reply to her offer of bus money. Instead, I walked into a Mercedes dealership the next day, not to browse, not to dream, to buy. The salesman, this guy named Porter with 2 white teeth and a handshake that went on too long, thought I was lost at first. Or that I was shopping for my husband. It wasn't until I pulled up my banking app and showed him my account balance that his entire demeanor changed. "I want the AMG GT 63S matte graphite exterior, red leather interior." I'd researched it extensively. The most beautiful machine I'd ever seen, and exactly the kind of statement piece that screams successful in a language my family would understand. That's a $200,000 vehicle, Miss Colburn." "I'm aware of its price, Porter. What I'm not aware of is why we're still talking instead of processing my payment." I didn't recognize my own voice in that moment. I sounded like my father, honestly. The same tone he used with waiters who brought him the wrong dish or store clerks who couldn't find what he was looking for. But it worked. 3 hours later, I drove off the lot in a car worth more than everything I'd ever owned combined. I didn't buy it for the car itself, though, not gonna lie. It drives like a dream and makes this purring sound when you accelerate that's basically automotive therapy. I bought it because it was a language my family spoke, a visual representation they couldn't ignore or dismiss or explain away. December crept closer. I leased a bigger apartment, hired more people, got featured in Nylon magazine. which, by the way, I framed but didn't send to my parents, even though every cell in my body wanted to. The business kept growing. We hit 7 figures in revenue by early December. I had 14 people working for me, a company with health insurance and an HR department, and a holiday party with an open bar. But every night, as I fell asleep in my new place with the floor-to-ceiling windows and the view of the city, I wasn't thinking about the business or the money or the car. I was thinking about my Uncle Desmond's face, about my dad's dismissal, about my mom's pitying texts. I was thinking about Christmas Day, when I would finally be seen. The plan was simple. Show up unannounced, park in the driveway where everyone would see, walk in like nothing was unusual, let them come to me with their questions. I even bought a whole new outfit for the occasion. This cashmere sweater in this deep burgundy color that cost more than my rent in the old place. These perfectly tailored black pants, boots that made this satisfying click when I walked. Subtle wealth, not flashy. The kind my mom always respected. Christmas morning arrived. I woke up at 5 a.m., too anxious to sleep. Showered, dressed, did my makeup with shaking hands. Packed the car with carefully selected gifts. No handmade items this year. Just expensive things from brands my family recognized. The kind of gifts that come in heavy boxes with magnetic closures and tissue paper. The drive took 2.5 hours. I listened to this playlist I'd made specifically for this moment, all power anthems and revenge songs. Taylor Swift, Beyoncé. The kind of music you play when you're about to walk into a room and change the way people see you forever. I pulled up to my parents' house at exactly 11:43 a.m. I know because I checked the dashboard clock right before I turned off the engine. All the familiar cars were already there. My brother's sensible SUV, my sister's company-leased sedan, my parents' decade-old luxury car they bought used but pretend they bought new. And then, in the middle of them all, this gleaming graphite spaceship of a vehicle that cost more than some people's houses. I sat there for a minute, engine idling, heat blasting, heart pounding. Through the windshield, I could see the Christmas tree lights in the living room window. Could imagine everyone inside, doing the same things they did every year. My dad mixing drinks, my mom fussing over appetizers, my siblings and their spouses, and their perfect children opening matching pajamas. None of them knowing what was about to happen. I took one deep breath, turned off the car, and opened the door. That's when my dad came outside, not because he'd seen me arrive, but because he'd heard the unfamiliar engine. He stepped onto the porch in his Christmas sweater, squinting into the winter sun. And then he saw me. And then he saw the car. His face, God, I wish I had a picture of his face in that moment. This slow-motion double take, like his brain couldn't process the two things together. Tavia and wealth. His failure daughter, and this obscene display of success. He didn't say hello. He didn't ask how I was. The first words out of his mouth were, Is that yours? I just stared at him for a second, letting the question hang in the December air between us. Then I nodded. Yeah, Dad, it's mine. I bought it. He stepped off the porch, moving toward the car like someone in a trance. This is the AMG GT, isn't it? These start at 200,000, I finished for him, give or take. And that's when it started. The thing I'd been fantasizing about for months. The shift. I could see it happening in real time, like watching ice crack on a lake. His entire perception of me rearranging itself to accommodate this new information. He reached out to touch the hood, almost reverent. What are you? When did this happen? Before I could answer, the front door opened again. My mom appeared, wiping her hands on a dish towel. Conrad? Who are you talking to out here? The ham needs... She stopped mid-sentence when she saw me, or maybe when she saw the car. It was impossible to tell which one of us she was more shocked by. Tavia? She blinked rapidly, like her eyes were malfunctioning. Is that yours? Not hello, not Merry Christmas, not it's good to see you. Just the same question, the same disbelief, the same immediate recalibration of my worth. I smiled. A real smile, because despite everything, there was this tiny bloom of satisfaction unfurling in my chest. Merry Christmas, Mom. And yes, it's mine, I drove it here. From my new apartment, the one with the doorman and the rooftop garden. I know how that sounds. Braggy, materialistic. But you have to understand, I wasn't that person. I was never that person. I was the one who bought secondhand clothes and made my own furniture and clipped coupons religiously. But I needed them to see me in terms they understood. I needed to translate my success into their language. More faces appeared at the door. My brother Elliot, his wife Nadia, their 2 kids, then Viv and her husband Terrence, then Becca, all of them spilling onto the porch with identical expressions of confusion. "What's going on?" Elliot called out. "Tavia? Is that you?" I waved from beside the car, feeling suddenly absurdly shy, like I was 10 years old again, showing off a drawing in art class. "Hey everyone, sorry I'm late." They all came down the steps then, a slow procession of my family moving toward me and this monument to capitalism I'd parked in their driveway. No one was hugging me. No one was asking how I was. They were all just staring. "Holy shit," Elliot finally said, circling the car. "Is this yours? Like you own this?" "Language," my mom said automatically, covering my niece's ears. "But yes, Tavia, explain please." So I did. Standing there in the driveway, the winter sun weak overhead, breath fogging in the cold, I told them everything. About the earrings going viral, about the design business expanding, about the team I'd built and the studio I'd opened and the department store deal. I watched their faces as I talked, the skepticism melting into shock, the shock hardening into something else, something that looked almost like respect, but mixed with something darker, something I couldn't quite name yet. "Why didn't you tell us any of this?" my mom asked when I finished. "All these months, and you never said a word." I looked at her, really looked at her, and realized she was hurt, not impressed, not proud, hurt, like I'd deliberately kept secrets from her. And maybe I had. "I tried," I said quietly, "at the beginning, but no one ever asked for details. No one seemed interested. After a while, it just felt easier not to mention it." My dad was still circling the car like he couldn't quite believe it was real. "You must be making, what? 7 figures?" The question was so nakedly about the money that I almost laughed. The business grossed just over 7 figures this year. My personal income is comfortable. "Comfortable enough for this," Elliot said, knocking gently on the car's hood. I felt a flash of irritation. "Yes, Elliot, comfortable enough for this." Viv had been strangely quiet, standing back from the group with her arms crossed. Now she stepped forward, head tilted. "So, what do you actually do all day? Like, what's your job title?" "I'm the founder and CEO," I said. The words still felt strange in my mouth, like clothes I hadn't broken in yet. "I design. I manage the team. I make decisions about the company's direction." She nodded slowly. "Impressive. I didn't think the crafty stuff would actually, you know, work out?" I finished for her. Yeah, that was the general consensus. An awkward silence fell. My family kept glancing between me and the car, like they couldn't decide which one of us to talk to. Finally, my mom clapped her hands together. "Well, this is wonderful news. Let's go inside. The ham is probably drying out, and it's freezing out here. Tavia, do you need help carrying anything in?" Just like that, we were moving toward the house, the normal Christmas choreography resuming, but with this new element disrupting the familiar patterns. Me, suddenly worthy of attention. Me, suddenly someone to be reckoned with. Inside, everything looked exactly the same. The same decorations they'd used since I was a kid. The same appetizer spread on the coffee table. The same Christmas music playing softly from hidden speakers. But nothing felt the same. My nephew Trevor Elliott's 6-year-old tugged on my sleeve as I hung up my coat. "Aunt Tavia, are you rich now?" I crouched down to his level, smiling. "I have enough money to be comfortable, Trev, and to buy things I really want sometimes." He nodded seriously. "Like that car? Dad says it costs more than our house." From across the room, Elliot cleared his throat. "Trevor, that's not exactly what I—" "It's an expensive car," I agreed, ignoring my brother. But you know what? The most valuable things I have aren't things at all. They're the people who work with me, the skills I've built, the freedom to make my own choices. I meant it. I really did. But even as I said it, I knew how hollow it sounded in this context crouched beside a 6-year-old in my parents' living room, having just rolled up in the automotive equivalent of a middle finger. The rest of the afternoon unfolded like a fever dream. Everyone was nice to me, solicitous, interested. My dad kept finding reasons to bring up my business in conversation. My mom insisted I take the good chair, the one by the fireplace that usually went to Elliot or my grandpa. My uncle Desmond, the same one who'd publicly humiliated me last year, arrived late, took one look at the car in the driveway, and spent the next hour peppering me with questions about investment strategies. You know, he said, leaning in conspiratorially over his eggnog, I always knew you had it in you. Creative types just take a different path. I said that to your mother all the time. I stared at him, this strange mixture of disgust and pity churning in my stomach. Did you? That's not how I remember it. He waved a hand dismissively. Well, families worry. It's what we do. But look at you now. Proved us all wrong. I should have felt vindicated. I should have been basking in this newfound respect. Instead, I felt hollow, like I'd won a game whose rules I despised. During dinner, my grandma rose, the one person who'd never made me feel less than reached over, and squeezed my hand under the table. You look tired, sweetheart, she whispered while everyone else argued about politics. Are you happy with all this? The question caught me off guard. Was I happy? With the business? Yes. With the freedom? Absolutely. With the validation my family was suddenly so eager to give me? I squeezed her hand back. I'm getting there, Grandma. Her eyes, cloudy with cataracts but still sharp, saw right through me. Remember what I always told you. The measure of success isn't in what you have. It's in who you become along the way, I finished for her. The mantra she'd repeated throughout my childhood, the one that had always felt like a lifeline when my parents were pushing me toward paths I didn't want. She nodded, satisfied. Don't let them change that about you. After dinner came presents. I'd spent thousands on gifts this year, designer scarves for my mom and sisters, a limited edition watch for my dad, premium noise-canceling headphones for my brother, exclusive Lego sets for the kids. Things I knew they wanted but wouldn't buy for themselves. I watched their faces as they opened them. The surprise, the pleasure, the quick mental calculations of how much everything cost. This is too much, Tavia, my mom said, running her fingers over the cashmere scarf I'd bought her, but she didn't try to give it back. My dad actually hugged me after opening the watch, a stiff, awkward embrace that felt foreign after so many years without physical affection. This is incredibly generous, he said formally, like he was accepting an award. When it came time for me to open their gifts, I could sense their discomfort. They'd bought me the same things they always did, practical items, middle-range brands, a planner for the new year, slippers, a gift card to a department store. We didn't know about your situation, my mom explained apologetically as I unwrapped the slippers. Next year we'll have to step up our game. I smiled, trying to look genuinely pleased. These are perfect, actually. My feet are always freezing in my apartment. The truth was, I didn't care what they'd bought me. I never had. What I'd wanted from them was never material. It was their belief, their support, their willingness to see me as I was, not as they wanted me to be. And now they were seeing the car, the clothes, the gifts, the trappings of success, but still not me. As the evening wore on, I found myself growing quieter, watching my family interact with this new version of me they'd suddenly decided was worthy of attention. My brother asking if I could recommend a financial advisor. My sister wondering if I'd consider investing in her friend's startup. My parents exchanging proud glances whenever someone complimented my sweater or asked about my business. Around 9, I stepped outside onto the back porch, needing air. The night was clear and cold, stars bright above the bare trees. I leaned against the railing, breathing in the winter silence. The door opened behind me. My sister Viv stepped out, wrapped in her new scarf, holding 2 mugs. Mom made hot chocolate, she said, offering me one, with the good marshmallows. I took it, surprised. Viv and I had never been close. She was 4 years older, had always been the practical one, the sensible one, the one who followed all the rules and reaped all the rewards. Thanks, I said, sipping the too sweet liquid. She leaned against the railing beside me, looking out at the dark yard. So, you did it. Proved everyone wrong. I shrugged. That wasn't really the goal. No? She gave me a skeptical look. The $200,000 car suggests otherwise. I laughed despite myself. Okay, maybe it was part of the goal. We stood in silence for a moment, steam from our mugs rising into the cold air. I owe you an apology, she finally said, not looking at me. For last year. For a lot of years, actually. I turned to look at her profile, sharp against the night sky. You do? She nodded, still staring straight ahead. I thought you were being stubborn, deliberately making life harder for yourself. I didn't understand why you wouldn't just conform. Do what was expected, it worked for me. But not for everyone, I said quietly. No, she sighed. Not for everyone. And I was. I was jealous, I think, of your courage, of the way you just decided to build something completely your own, even when everyone told you it was a bad idea. I nearly dropped my mug. You were jealous? Of me? You have the corner office and the 6-figure salary and the perfect life. She made a sound somewhere between a laugh and a scoff. I have a job that keeps me up at night with anxiety, a marriage that looks better on Instagram than it feels in real life, and a constant, grinding fear that I'm one mistake away from losing everything I've worked for. I didn't know what to say. Viv had always been the golden child, the example held up whenever I faltered, the benchmark against which my failures were measured. Why are you telling me this? I finally asked. She turned to face me then, her expression raw in a way I'd never seen before. Because I need you to know that I'm proud of you. Not because of the car or the money. Because you had the guts to build a life that actually makes you happy. And I need you to know that before. She trailed off, looking away again. Before what? She took a deep breath. Before you leave again. Before you decide that this family isn't worth your time. Because I wouldn't blame you, Tavia. Not after how we've treated you. Something cracked open in my chest then. Some hard shell of resentment I'd been nurturing for years. Not completely. Not all at once. But enough to let a little light in. I'm not going anywhere, I said softly. This is still my family. Dysfunctional as it is. She laughed, a real laugh this time. God, we really are a mess, aren't we? The absolute worst? I agreed, bumping her shoulder with mine. We finished our hot chocolate in companionable silence before heading back inside. The rest of the evening passed more comfortably. There were still awkward moments. My dad bringing up the car approximately 17 more times. My uncle asking if I'd considered tax havens. But something had shifted. Some small, genuine connection had been made. When it was time to leave, my family walked me to the car, all of them bundled against the cold night. There was a moment, just a brief, surreal moment, where they all stood in a semicircle, looking at me beside this ridiculous machine I'd bought to prove a point. My dad cleared his throat. Drive safe, Tavia. That's a lot of power under the hood. My mom hugged me, holding on a beat longer than usual. Call when you get home, no matter how late. One by one, they said their goodbyes. Not fawning, not with the exaggerated respect they'd shown earlier. Just normal. Family saying goodbye to family. As I pulled out of the driveway, watching them shrink in my rearview mirror, I realized something. The revenge I'd planned for so long. The vindication I'd craved. It hadn't delivered what I thought it would. It hadn't healed the wounds of being dismissed and underestimated for years. It hadn't magically transformed my family into the supportive, understanding people I'd always wanted them to be. What it had done was crack open a door, create a space for something new to potentially grow. Not because of the car or the money, but because I'd finally forced them to see that their narrative about me, their narrow definition of success, had been wrong all along. The highway stretched dark and empty before me as I headed back to the city. I turned the radio off, preferring the quiet hum of the engine and my own thoughts. Had I won? Had I lost? The answer wasn't clear-cut. What was clear was that showing up in that car hadn't been the end of anything. It had been the beginning of something much more complicated. Because here's the truth. No one tells you about revenge. Getting what you want doesn't always feel the way you think it will. Sometimes it's hollow. Sometimes it's bittersweet. And sometimes, just sometimes, it creates an opening for something you needed more than revenge all along. So if you're watching this and thinking about your own family drama, your own need to prove yourself, just know, the car, the job, the money, none of it fixes the fundamental human need to be seen for who you really are. That's the work we all have to do, with or without the trappings of success. And yes, I still have the car. And yes, my business is still thriving. And yes, my family is still a complicated mess of love and judgment and history. But we're talking now, really talking in ways we never did before. That's the real success story. Not the numbers in my bank account, but the slow, painful, beautiful work of being known. If you made it this far, thank you for listening. Like and subscribe if this resonated with you. And let me know in the comments if you've ever had to prove your family wrong, or if you found another way to make peace with their expectations. Because I'm still figuring it out, one day at a time.